you've now, I mean, again, you just see various bits, updates, and just talking to you occasionally, you've got a few more bits of old analog hardware has turned back up again.
Mm-hmm. One of them from your hallway?
Well, yes, it was all sitting in the hallway. I should probably need to get him out of there. Was that a conscious decision to get back to that? Was it just that gear lust just kicked in and you thought...
there's more to it than that, like...
He found I had a 909 sitting in the hallway, and it was.
And if I remember rightly, your lady friend said, "Please take more."
It, yeah, because there was
yeah.
It was about.
There was a 909, an 808, a 707, a 727.
Yeah,
there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
What are you doing with the 909?
I'm doing with it now.
Yeah, he's doing it with the 909.
The whole.
Yep.
The whole outboard analog gear thing for me. Of course, I'm a bit of a collector, be it back in the day, basketball cards or whatever. Scroll through my life, they're all stood in the cupboard at mum's somewhere. But it's...
So your addiction just got more expensive?
Yeah. But basically, like, in the last... I mainly gone back to the analog stuff a lot more in the last year or so, because I've noticed that, like... Guys are always sending me their tunes, and I'm stoked to hear them. But it's like, that's massive. Oh, there's massive again. Or like a lot of guys have just downloaded cracks, which we're all guilty of, and they're just using presets. And the thing is, with something like massive, you turn it on and you get a good sound straight away.
Yeah.
But
you can tell it's massive.
But you can tell it's massive, and you listen to 4 or 5 records, and it's like, oh, same preset. So I guess the thing for me with hardware is I have to sit there and make the sound, and I know I'm getting the sound that no one else is going to have. Well, fundamentally, no one else is going to have, because then I put it on my computer and affect it and EQ it and compress it and stuff. So it's kind of like that was one of the major reasons I went back to hardware, was to have that unique sound and to have that separation from everybody else, so I don't sound like everybody else. I'm not saying everyone's guilty of that, but I just found that a lot of guys were just using the same presets.
I think there was that revolution where suddenly everyone could write tracks in their computer, so everyone is writing tracks on the computer, and there's
the software is easy to find.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't? If you want to write tracks, go ahead for it. I'm all encouraging for that, but I guess for me, I've always kind of strived to sound a little bit different to everybody else.
So you've now got it's a 202, isn't it? No.
Oh yeah. MC202 is kind of my baseline machine.
Yeah.
An MC202 is basically an SH101, but with a sequencer.
Yeah.
But I just do it using MIDI to CV converter. And if I'm talking complete garbage, ask me what this is. I'm just assuming you all know what I'm talking about. And MC202 and SH101 are what, pre-1980? Yeah, pre-1980 full analog, just basically do really low subby bass lines.
And CV, so no MIDI.
Yes, and because they're so early, they don't have MIDI, so they have CV, which is control voltage, so you have to get a MIDI to CV converter to control it with MIDI. That's basically the long story cut short.
All your synths, like, controlling MIDI, like, have you got a MIDI keyboard that controls the audio and the synthesizer and then into
Yeah, everything's kind of just jammed.
How do you do that?
I have a one control keyboard in front of me, and that kind of is.
You just got daisy chain.
Yeah, not so much daisy chain. I've got a MIDI card that has a number of outputs, and it goes to my Juno 60. I haven't more bothered to CV MIDI to CV convert because I don't use it enough, and if I do use it for stabs, and just sit there and figure them out.
Just sample.
But like my Juno, I use that a lot. MC202, obviously the base station there's now as well. There's the K station. It's all kind of just synced in.
Some unique sounds though, eh?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The older gear,
and that's you're not going to find anywhere else. So
and that's the other cool thing with analog stuff is every different unit is made with different components.
Yeah.
Well, there was a period of time there where you could that's the Moog. Moog has its own sound because it's got Moog hardware.
Yeah.
Roland stuff has a Roland hardware. I've looked at buying more Roland synths. Then I've gone back and set up my machine and no, I've already got 4. I don't need any more Roland synths because essentially they all have the same sound engine. Let's find another piece of kit to get something sound a little bit different.
Well, even especially the older stuff, you get 2 808s, 2 909s next to each other. They'll sound completely different from each other as well.
Totally.
The 808 that's sitting in the studio at the moment, that you turn the decay up, and it's a fault, but basically you turn it up and it almost becomes oscillating this just continuous big bass note that just you have to turn it back down because it just everything starts rumbling and distorting.
Yeah, and with software you don't get that stuff. It's just
Yeah.
it's always the same. I'm not bagging software. I use software a lot as well. But I just kind of whatever fits the environment. I like to use both software and hardware when I'm writing.
Yeah.
I generally end up doing that.
Well, generally you're writing those parts. Are you recording them all into the computer?
Yeah,
And then working on them as audio at that point?
Yeah, I normally will, because I just would, at the end of a day, I would normally record stuff and do record it down, set a loop that goes on for 4 minutes, and do some automation, automation on the synth itself, and record it all back, and then I can go back and take a key stab and put it through Contact or SX24 or whatever, and go from there.
So all your mix down itself is actually done inside Logic?
Yep.
And are you using just your standard EQs and compressors in there? Have you got your own favourites?
Mostly, but one little unit that I got my hand on was this. This is
Cooker.
still in one
This
piece.
was,
This is still in one piece. It's what's called Focusrite liquid mix, and I'm quite sure many aware when you load up a compressor or something on your computer, it uses CPU power. So once you've got, I'm stupid. I have too many tracks when I write. Like I love making little noises and then putting 5 different effects across them and having them off across 5 different channels. So I'm quite commonly have in excess of 60 tracks in a song. So it's all over the show. So if you've got a few compressors all over the show, yes, the computer kind of goes, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So this little unit was something that I picked up actually when I was with Joel in Vancouver, and it is compressors and EQs in a box, and it's run a firewire, so your computer does no work. You can just send it through, and all the compressors and EQs are emulations of old classic EQs and compressors.